All right, before we start this video, when I originally recorded this, I was a little bit out of it. It was like the night of the event, and I was a little bit tired, and I just want to make sure I gave some shoutouts and recognitions before, everything gets started. So, shoutouts to Level 1 Games for hosting the event. It ran really smoothly. Great event. Thank you so much for that. Shoutouts to Dom for letting me borrow his Secret Rare. I couldn't have gotten this, done as well as I did without it. So thank you very much for that. Shoutouts to my bud Abe for getting second place with Universe 6 Kaba. It's really cool, and he got his regional invite. So we can both not go to Indy now because it's not a thing, but it's still really congrats to him. And shoutouts to Mark Hill for coming down from Nebraska and coming to this event. It was really great to meet you for the first time, and yeah, really nice. So without further ado, let's get this video started. Hey everyone, Egman here with another video. Today I've got a very special video with a special guest, Cody. He dropped into my DMs the other day. He's like, hey, this Hirudegarn deck's really good. And I'm like, really? And he said yes. Isn't that right?
That is exactly what happened.
That is
word for word.
word for word. Yes, and I really fell in love. He's been playing Hirudegarn for pretty much since he's been released. Yeah.
Yeah, for like on and off, but pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, yeah.
Yeah, and he's really spent a lot of time, and I feel like with all the new kind of more control deck stuff that came out of set 7, this leader can really shine in his actual archetype for like the first time in like what he's almost like he's a year old, right? Set 4 came out a year ago, so
Yeah, he's an old boy. But he's still like the most generically versatile leader besides maybe Pan, because
yes.
discard a battle card, draw 2 is always good.
Yeah, it's one of probably the most generic like value gainers, and it's blue, which is good for a lot of cards right now, and just really a fantastic leader. And I'm really excited to go talk over this deck. So yeah, before we start with that, any just you've just been playing this deck for a really long time.
Uh, yeah, I've been playing Hirudegarn for a while.
Hmm.
It was started off as like a pet deck, but it quickly grew into one of my favorite decks that I just pick up and play every once in a while. But currently, it's kind of just it's a little shelved. I haven't played it at locals very much
Hmm.
or often, but I mean, it's a deck that I definitely when I pick it back up and start playing it, I grind the living heck out of it.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate you doing this because I went to my invitationals today, and I went 3-1 with it and got third, and just a bunch of goodies for doing that. So I got 2 time regulated Vegetas, which I had 0 at the beginning of the day. So that
Oh,
helped me
that's
out.
really good.
Yeah, that helped me out a lot. So if you don't know what this leader does, where have you been? But it's so auto once per turn, or when this card attacks a leader card, you may choose 1 battle card in your hand and send it to your drop area. And if you do, you draw 2. It's battle cards only, not extra cards. So that's something that's important. But I really think like being able to drop like extra cards that are sorry battle cards that are just kind of dead in your hand, or like which multicolored cards are secret, like spoilers, there's multicolored cards here, but I think is one of the best things about this leader.
Oh yeah, I think that's great. But we're missing the greatest thing about this leader.
Yes, so that was already good. So it's an untapped 2 leader, but on the awakened side, uh, Cody, what does this awakened side attack do?
So he's got a really good effect of drawing a card,
Mm-hmm.
and on top of drawing a card, if you have 4 energy, when he swings at your opponent, they have to take a card from their hand and put it on top of their deck, which is generally a swing of 2 cards.
Yes, that is a +2, which is fantastic in so many ways. It's really weird that blue has like this hand control archetype like in on like the side, but this is just like fantastic in so many ways. And for like a really control heavy grind deck, this does a lot. I also like in a lot of situations putting it on top of their deck is better than like sending it to the drop area or warp or anything like that.
Well, actually, like if you want to go like into the real logistics, it's always better
Okay.
because then you also take away their draw for the turn or their leader's
Hmm.
draw effect, and you really start burying them in their own stack of cards. So if you're against a deck that like say doesn't shuffle a lot or doesn't have easy access to shuffling,
Hmm.
they can be stuck in the same 4 to 6 cards all game.
Yeah, it could be really demoralizing. Like, not to. I played against a skillless Goku, and he didn't see his 4-star ball or 1-drop Goku, and it was just he just demoralized. Like it's just super easy. Like I kept swinging, and then like the cards he drew again were just not 4-star ball or not Goku still, and so he had just like a really rough time.
Yeah,
So.
it's really good when you like Phantom Flame Cannon. Spoiler alert!
Hmm.
And
Oh
you
yeah.
put like their only 4-star back on top, and then you bury him deeper with Hirudegarn.
Hmm.
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah, definitely. So there's the leader. This is also Swag, the big leader, so watch out. This is twice as effective now. But moving along, so let's go to the main engine. I'm going to go through this quick, Cody, because it should be pretty self-explanatory. So we've got, let me make sure it looks good on there. All right. There we go. All right. So here's the main engine. So we're running 4 of all of these except for this 7 drop here. So first we've got Minutia. Fantastic card. I remember when people were running this in Storm just because it's technically you can +1 with it for free. What Minutia does is that when this card's discarded from your hand, is it just discard from your hand? Place your drop area from your hands, yeah.
So you can discard it with Hoy and get its effect as well.
Yeah, or if you're playing as like hand control yourself, you can just pop this effect and then you get its, you replace it for free. So
yeah, people seem to forget about that. So when people hit you with a card that says discard a card from your hand, you just pitch Minutia and you go get a free card.
So there's that, and then we get Hirudegarn the Wanderer. So this is the card you get for free. I call it lovingly the pants.
We call it legs.
Legs, okay, yeah. It's it really is just it's just fodder, honestly, and I think that's fine. There is a way to get into the 7-drop, which I'll go into shortly. But we've also have this Tapion. This card's fantastic in so many ways. Like just this fact we need to put in your drop is fine, but it's very versatile.
Oh yeah, that card's insane. A 3-drop that can take 2 life, and the really thing that makes this thing important in this format is it's an on-place take 2 life, and people are really undervaluing that. So even if you play it, they have to hit it with a preemptive strike or a denial of hope to stop you from getting the 2 life to your hand. So if it's a turn where you're gonna awaken, they might even just feed you the card in your drop anyways. So if it gets Vegeta the Cruel, they'll kill it, but you'll get your auto off, so you'll still take your 2 life, potentially awaken and start wreaking havoc anyways. And they put it in the drop for you. So
yeah, I think that's really good. This is technically our only way of self-awakening besides Dimension Magic, spoilers, but I feel like this card's great. There were a lot of situations where they just had this big bad boy on field, and then I just went Minutia, Tapion, self-awaken a bit, get rid of it, and just went on my way. So great card and all that. And then the real reason we're running all these Minutias and Tapions is for this Hirudegarn, Premonition of Evil, is that? Yes, that's what it is.
Yep.
So this is a fantastic card. It came out, it was overshadowed because it wasn't Path to Greatness when it came out, but I've been really stewing on this guy for a while and been waiting for the right time to play him, and I think now is the time for that. So how you get him out is that, so it's a 7-drop Hirudegarn, which is important for the EX Evolve, for the Colossal, and you just have to have a Minutia and a Tapion in your drop area, one of the easiest things for this deck to do.
Yeah, you could snooze and do that one, actually. That's really, really easy.
You still have to find these cards, which are not searchable per se, but we get a lot of cycle from being able to draw 2 every turn. And yeah, it just felt great. And you play it for free, so there's no energy investment. So if they have Denial of Hope or the Kaioken Goku, since it gets minus 10k on your turn, so if they can give it minus 10k, it blows up. You only invest 1 card for 1 of their cards and 2 of their energy.
Well, sometimes it's really cool. With this current format, it's if you get 2 of these in your hand, you can just bait all sorts of stuff because you can play 1, and they have to give you a Kaioken or something because they're scared of the 9. Because if you resolve a 9, which we'll get to in a second, it's really dangerous. And then if they do decide to give you the 2 energy to get rid of it, you just have another one. You just play it again for free.
And then we also have the other 7. I'm gonna say I didn't like this card, but I know that Cody does. The way yeah, go for it.
So the reason I like this card, a lot of people really, the 3 people I've had really try this deck. The reason they don't really like it is because they don't feel they ever have time to really play the 2 into the 7. But
that's really the same thing for me. That's how I feel about it.
But where I'm from, where I play this deck the most is there's a lot of people who play slower decks like Prison Frieza, Control, things like that, and I actually do end up getting time to play the promo for free, and then play the 2-drop, and then awaken, and then evolve the 7 into the 9, and if they don't kill my 2-drop next turn, I just make it into the 7, and then having the 7 and the 9 on the board is usually it's enough to you're immune to triple flash at that point. Decks that say you can't use counters, then you just walk all over them.
Yeah, because both of these, the 7-drop and this 9-drop, both have an effect that you can. When your opponent declares an attack, you can just send a card from your hand to the drop without having paying any energy. and send the card itself to the warp, and then it just negates the attack, and they come back during the start of your next main phase.
Yep, and then if the 7 gets to, if you do get to resolve a 7 and you get to use like its negate effect and it comes back because it's really easy to protect, you can just board a second 9, and if you get 2 9s on the board, I've never lost a game when I've boarded 2 of those.
Yeah, I could really see how devastating that could be. So, and then let's talk about the 9 since he's right there. So he's a big 30k body, which I don't think should be overlooked at all. You EX evolve him for 4 with 2 blue and 2 unspecified over a 7-drop. So either this guy or the promo. Most times the promo, but and then it has 2 things. So 1, when you play this card, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and 1 card in their hand and place it on top of their deck. I think it's in any order, right?
Yeah, you choose the order, so you can choose the battle card, and the thing that you have at the hand is like you pick it, and that's really important that you pick the card.
Yeah,
it's completely random.
So like worst, like it could be the best card, or like just the fact that it's never the worst case. It's the worst card for them is kind of helps out a lot. So.
Yeah, that's why normally when I do this deck, I always put the card from their hand underneath the battle card that I'm putting back, because I know what that card is, but I don't know what the card I hit, so I want that to be the further one down.
Yeah, I'd say in some cases, like against maybe like a Shenron, like against a leader that's not awakened, or against a Shenron leader, I would try to put it at least, like if it's the only effect you're going to resolve that turn, I would put it the battle card. It just depends. It really just depends. You need to figure out what's good, because they get the card quote unquote back, but you just want to see how, what's the hardest thing for them to do. So
yeah, like if it's a really good battle card, obviously I want that to be drawn second. But if it's a if it's like a mediocre card, like if it's something useless like Vegeta the Cruel, which does nothing against this deck anyways, I'm definitely giving them that back over the card in their hand.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, I mean, if you can give them like dead cards on top of their deck, that's really what you want to do. So
yep.
But yeah, and so like the really nice thing about him is that so you get to destroy 2 cards, and then you get free negates, quote unquote. You still have to discard a card, but it's not a big deal. It has barrier, which is normally impossible in this meta to get rid of. I played against a Clash of Fates Let's Go Krillin deck, and so he Goku'd it, and I felt really bad.
Oh no!
But I was able to get another one out and still get the win. But yeah, I theoretically, like, there's no way that they can get rid of this. Like, even if they like rest it and then kind of swing into it, you can just negate the attack. Yeah,
just get rid. Yeah, that's why I love this deck in Toa meta, because like they have to swing with something to get a combo step to remove the barrier, and you're just like, all right, he's just leaving now. He's going on a trip.
Yeah, he's gonna and yeah, just being able to have a consistent negate against like big mirrors, like that kind of thing is fantastic. So I really like this deck.
Against Toa, you very easily get to board 2 9s against Toa. Like they can't really interact with them. And both the normal 7 and the 9 can save themselves, so like they really can't do anything about you boarding 2 of them.
And then if they awaken, they just lost all their hand advantage. So
they lose. Yeah. I have not lost a Toa with this deck yet.
Yeah, I can imagine this could be a really bad matchup for them. So there's the main engine. Next, let's go into kind of like the set 7 stuff that made this. I feel like get to the consistent viable status that we're at right now. So we've got we're running. I'm gonna 7 and maybe 1 more of the multicolored cards. We're doing the blue-yellow because we already need the blue, and this Beerus really helps. We're running 4 of him just for that. And honestly, like there are some turns where I just would play him for the card draw.
Yeah, he's a 15k body. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he's really good. And like if I was, had a turn where I need to awaken, and I already had like the 9-drop on board or something like that, it was a really good way to just like use the 2 energy and then.
That's another reason he's on there, is because he gives you that little extender. He puts a 15 on the board, he draws a card, and then you flip over. It's really good.
And then then we also have Bojack, who is he's good for energy, but I really like found myself like wanting to combo a rival with him as much as possible too.
Yeah, man, he's the Stones. He basically stops 2 attacks and puts a 20k body on the board. It's really good.
Yep, and you can also like cheese, because when you play this card.
You mill a card.
You mill a card, so if you put something on top of their deck and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to get it back," and then you Bojack them, they they feel real.
Spoiler alert, I have made people put a victory strike on top of their deck and made them mill it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a cheese thing. Like, it's more consistent on your turn, obviously, but if you use the 9-drop Hirudegarn and you know what battle card you put on top of their deck, then you can just play this and mill it, or vice versa. Like, there are a lot of options for it. It's cheese. It made me almost want to run the 3-drop Bojack counter too. But
yeah, that's a little much.
Yeah.
I don't think I would play that.
Yeah, it's a bit cheesy, but just the fact, once again, you're able to just play this for free. It's a 20k blocker, and also rest something too. So like it can like stop like two attacks, in the sense like you have to combo up to play this, and then you can rest like another attack they had waiting. So, or even like a card you need to get rid of. Like there were once or twice where I felt like, oh, I needed to get rid of like a 2-drop card. Let's put it in rest mode and then attack into it with a 30k.
One thing I really like about that, and this is something that people really underestimate about this deck really fast, is you actually can put on a lot of like 15 to 20k bodies really quick.
Oh yeah.
And just start fighting the board back, and they'll be really surprised, and then you're like, oh, I got this big endgame engine too.
So since we're running these multicolored cards, we're running 3 of the Undying Spirit Son Gohan and 2 of the Chomp of the Tricksters. These are pretty good. I think this is a good ratio. I would say if I was to put one more in, I'd probably put the Champa, the third one of those in. But I think 3 and 2 is great. We don't have a lot of yellow, so just being able to have a couple more targets for the arrival for Bojack helps out a bit. But I think these are both very good cards.
I think Champa is literally the best card in set 7, but you didn't hear that from
Yeah,
me.
You didn't hear. Yeah. Don't tell Mutaito, right? But
don't tell Mutaito.
Yeah.
Well, Mutaito's not set 7.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, like I just like don't tell him like there's another champion in the ring, like kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the math, like Champa's definitely a better card.
Mm-hmm.
For one more energy, you board a 15k and then you draw, but it also means you have to have specific conditions met before he is better than Mutaito. So
sure.
There's definitely arguments for both, but in any situation where you can play Champa, he's better.
Yeah, I totally agree. So if you don't know what these do, because we've been overlooking it, so both of them are the new 3-drop multicolored cards. There really needs to be like a really catchy way to say it, because I keep saying 3-drop counter cards, but anyways, both.
I just say multi-counters.
Multi-counters. Oh,
yep.
Ooh, all right, that official multi-counters. So both of them are 3-drops, but if you have a multicolored card in your drop area, in your energy, is it even? Yeah, it can even just be an off color. So we could do some cheese there, but. Since we do that every time, we get these reduced to 2-cost cards, and then they're both counterplays, but they're also the kind of counterplays with autos, which are half good, half bad, depending on what kind of cards you're looking at. Since the auto is what happens to actually do their effect, it gets around deflect, but if you play a card, they get to resolve their auto, right? That's the trade-off. Yep. Like I played against Gogeta, and he dropped it, and I played Champa, and he was like, wait a minute, it has deflect. I'm like, well, counterplay puts this in play, and then the auto gets around it, which also gets around
It's really
barrier.
good, because Gogeta 7 would make you get rid of your hand and then draw 3, and then Champa would resolve, make them rest their Gogeta, and then you draw cards. So
Yes,
go back up to 4.
That's 100% what I did. So now I have 4 cards. They can't swing with their Gogeta. They presumably tapped out to do this.
Yeah, and you boarded a 15k and your Hirudegarn, so they're going to start top decking cards.
Yeah, and Hirudegarn contests the Gogeta very easily. Just the fact that it's a big 30k that can just go even with it can help out a lot.
And you generally will out card advantage Gogeta decks pretty easily.
Definitely, and also something else with these cards, the cards that you choose, it doesn't have to be the card they play. Because I think next turn he played something, and I just said, "Oh, Champa, put Gogeta back in rest mode."
Mm-hmm.
So that's something really to look out for. And then this one, I'd say this is like my least favorite, like the weakest of all of them. So Undying Spirit Son Gohan, what he does is that he chooses a card with energy cost of 4 or less, and returns it to your opponent's hand, and then you untap 1 energy. So like they kind of know that he's kind of the worst one, so you get an energy back for using him, but
well, the reason he's really good is he's like part of the reason you get to have a good early game. So on 3 energy you can counterplay with Gohan, and then if they try to do something else, you could counterplay with another Gohan or counterplay with a Champa, because you get that energy back, and it feels really good when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's I'd like to destroy or warp a card from their hand at the same time. That's like...
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can't all be Vegeta.
Yeah, I know. But It's still very important, and there are a lot of times like I caught someone off guard when they played a Shenron, like a 4-drop Shenron, expecting to be able to untap 2, and I said, oh, Undying Spirit Gohan, put that back in your hand, and now you're tapped out for the turn. Great. So, yep, that's it for these. I love these multi counters. They're fantastic in so many ways. So
They're really versatile.
Yes, and then we've got 2 Hidden Power East Supreme Kai. This is just a fantastic way to end the game. Even though we control the game so much, we don't actually have like a really good win condition a lot of the time. So I think this is great at 2. You'll always see one, and if like there's a case where like they're stuck in your hand, you can always just like pitch it with your leader ability or just a bunch of other things. So it's never truly dead in hand, and it was really helpful.
Yeah, it just actually brought up a really important thing I forgot to bring up about the 7-drop, the quote-unquote bad 7-drop.
Oh, yeah.
I also played those because they were 10Ks, but I mean, the deck's getting a little thick on 10Ks now, so...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're using so much of our energy already flexibly, so it could be a good thing or a bad thing, but... And there were times where you know, comboed it for defense, too, but...
Yeah, and then you gotta remember your actual beater is a 30k, and you basically always have it. So making a 40k double striker with 1 energy is pretty good.
Yeah, and something you got like being able to be flexible. Your opponent will see your 2 energy up, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, I'll play weird, so they don't get to play that energy." So being able to like sneak in like energy plays by like if they tap out and swing with something, you can combo with a 10k because you know that their turn's done, right?
Yeah.
So good stuff there, and then also this like the original Paragus super combo. This is like one of the reasons Hirudegarn is so broken in other ways. So Hoi, what you do is that you pitch 1 card and then you draw 2 whenever you super combo with it.
Yep.
Which is absurd. It can trigger Monosha. It can get rid of like if you have like too much extra cards in your hand, it can just get rid of an extra card you're not using anymore. It's just fantastic.
I think Hoi is still my favorite super combo to use because while I do prefer, or while I wish he drew 2 first, like Paragus did,
yeah.
I'd rather drop the card than warp the card.
Yeah, I agree. There are times where I'd rather see the cards first, but
oh yeah, like generally speaking, you'd always want to see the cards first, but I just like having access to the card in the drop.
Yeah, I agree.
It just feels like it's getting more used there.
All right, last battle card. So pretend this is the secret rare because I don't have it right now. But yeah, so this is the 40k secret rare, the blue yellow that comes from the set. It's an 8-drop, right?
Normally yes, it's either 8 or if your opponent has 6 total cards in rest mode or 6 energy, it becomes a 5-drop.
Correct. So and it's more attainable than I thought with this deck, and there are a lot of situations where it came in clutch in a lot of ways. I'd say when I originally thought of the card, I thought it was like a win more card, and now it's more. I would upgrade it on my scale to like a nice to have. There are a lot of situations where I'd be like, oh, it'd be really nice to have the secret rare right now because it get a lot of stuff. It's a 40k that is able to rest 4 of your opponent's cards when it comes out, and then also when it swings, it's a 40k triple strike that also draws you 4 cards. And in this deck where like your main advantage, like the main win condition for this deck is that you use 1 card when your opponent uses 2 cards, right? And then you just win in hand advantage kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice grindy style of deck.
And so just being able to refill your hand with 4 more cards just pretty much wins you. As long as you have the defense next turn is fantastic, and also just putting your opponent's cards to rest and just being able to ping them down because you've got a 40k, you've assumedly have an 9-drop Hirudegarn that can also swing, which is a 30k, that's no joke. And then you still have your leader too, so they have to be dropping cards to either negate or combo out of it, and then you're also dropping cards from if your leader swings. Just a lot of work is done.
The thing that I really like about the secret rare specifically in this deck is, unlike a lot of decks, you would never want to shotgun the secret rare on turn 5 ever. But in this deck, you can do it a little bit safer because you do have access to the Hirudegarn negates. So you're a little bit safer to do it, and then they have to answer it, because if they don't answer it or they can't kill you because you have access to a negate that you wouldn't normally have access to, and then you got dimension magic and stuff.
Yeah.
You really can start punishing your opponent.
Yeah, just the fact that like this deck like runs like technically like dozens of negates if you count like the counterplay and all that. Like it can just be really oppressive. So I don't think, in conclusion, I don't think this card's needed, but it is nice to have. If you're looking for like a finisher card, like just the fact that it draws 4, I think is probably the strongest part of it, because you can.
If you're looking for a good replacement for this, you can always just play from the anniversary box, the Fu. That Fu is quite a good card in this deck as well.
Yes, that can be a really great win condition, just because your opponent like just has to destroy their hand. It does mean you can't use Dimension Magic anymore, which can be scary.
But you do have the Hirudegarn. So, hopefully you have the Hirudegarn.
Yes, you do. So, and you also can use it with 4 energy, which means on turn 5 you should have something up to Dimension Magic for 1. So, so great card, and I think that Fu would be a good replacement if you don't have that. So. And then we've got 4 Dimension Magic spoilers. We've got 3 Phantom Flame Cannon spoilers. I think 3 is a good number. I think 4 would be a little bit too cloggy. You could maybe go down to 2, but it's just a really great defensive tool.
That's one of my favorite plays in the deck, is swing with my leader when I have like 4 energy up, and then just shotgun 3 Phantom Flame Cannons and double strike.
Jeez.
And it's like, well, we're gonna stack 4 cards of my choice on top of your deck.
Yeah. And then they'll get 2 more cards, but still, like, yeah, that seems.
It's normally how I close the game. Is I try to hold my Phantom Flame Cannons either for defense when their hand's small, so like I can punish their pokes.
Yeah.
Or I try to like shotgun all in with Phantom Flame Cannons and a Kai to close the game. They'll be like, okay, he's got like 5 energy up. He's gonna play something big, and I just swing with my leader while they're at 2, and they have no idea. Like they think, oh, I can combo out of it, and then your Phantom Flame Cannons are basically like, if you look at it, say you hit a 5k combo with a Phantom Flame Cannon. Well, that's basically a swing of like 4 cards, because now if you took one 5k, they have to be able to exceed the 10k you just gained.
Yeah.
Plus they lost the card.
Yeah, it's like a good middle, like of like the like the Android super combo and like Unbreakable.
Yeah, except if you don't end up winning the game, they still get buried deep in their deck.
Correct. So yeah, just great extra cards. You want to keep it a little bit extra card light, just because our leader cares so much about battle cards. But also we're running 2 of these Frost Deadly Poison. Love this card. If you just like just resolve it once, and you'll know what I mean. Like, a lot of people are really unafraid of Cold Bloodlust right now, and this is like Cold Bloodlust and Crusher Ball had a baby.
Oh yeah, I think this is one of the most non-discussed, when it should be one of the most discussed cards of the format.
Yeah, the only thing, like, besides the Gogeta, like, this can stop any win condition that people are playing right now.
Besides Kaioken. Can't hit Kaioken.
That's can it not hit Kaioken?
Yeah, Kaioken has deflect.
Okay, well, I mean, and Gogeta, yeah, sorry, yep. Yes. Which we still have answers to in this deck with these Chompos, so it's not like a huge deal. But yeah, it's just fantastic. And so if you don't know what it does, so it's a blue-yellow. One specific variation is 3 costs, and 3 costs would normally be a lot, but in this deck we're really fluid with our energy. And then also, so counterplay, I'm going to read it verbatim. The battle card your opponent is playing in rest mode with its skill negated for duration of the turn, then draw 1 card. Then if your life is 3 or less, choose up to 1 of your blue or yellow energy, switch to active mode. So
it's called Bloodlust and Crusher Ball mixed, and then you basically combine both those cards for 2 energy, because if you're at 3, you untap the 1, and then it replaces itself. So
yes, the fact that it replaces itself is huge, because you used 1 card to get rid of one of their cards. They spent a lot of energy for it. You technically spent 2 energy, and you get to replace it too.
And then Hirudegarn attacks it, which is what normally ends up happening.
Yes. Or just puts it back on top of their deck, or what have you, depending on what it is. So it gets, like, the fact that you get so much removal right back on the just at the beginning of your turn is just fantastic. So that's the main deck. But Eggman, wait, where are your Sensu Beans? Those aren't part of that. That's a blue card. Why aren't you running Sensu Bean in a control deck? Cody, do you want to talk about why you don't like Sensu Beans?
Well, it's not that I don't like Senzu Bean, I just don't like him in this deck. So I feel that, like, the more I played the deck, like, originally I started off playing 4 like anybody else would do, because the blue deck.
Because it feels like you'll get chastised immediately for not doing that. Like...
Oh, I still get chastised, but I mean, we have results for this deck now, so I mean, it's pretty safe to say that you don't need them.
No.
So the main reason I stopped playing them is I started going down. I went to like 3 because I was trying to find room to get like more value cards in the deck, and then I
Hmm.
like every single time I was like, I want to fit a new value card in here. I just always went back to Senzu Bean. And I was like, well, what is this doing for me? My deck's already like super tanky,
Hmm.
and I'm like, why do I actually need to ever extend my play? And then you don't ever need to extend your play. You're
Nope.
perfectly content just sitting. Like you're not trying to do some big giant combo. This is a deck where you board your 9 and then you just kind of wait until your opponent deals with it. And if
Hmm.
they can't deal with it, it eventually outvalues them and kills them. So
Yeah, I
Bean was
think that.
just the simplest card to cut because of yeah, you were too fluid with your energy and you just never needed to untap anything besides Dimension Magic for defense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I like the amount of times where like you're actually in the battle phase is usually pretty small. Like, there sometimes you can get aggro down, but I'd say that we have some options in the sideboard for that. It just like I feel like you go like -1 a lot, and in a deck where you're trying to gain it way more value than your opponent, I don't think that's a good card.
No, it's definitely like if you're gonna play it, it would be a sideboard card, and then I mean if Senzu Bean can stop like 2 or 3 attacks, then it did its job. But
Hmm.
that's not even it takes 2 beans now to like stop an onslaught from say U6 Kaba,
Hmm.
and I'm not okay going like -2 unless it's to shut off their entire turn.
Yes, exactly.
So like that's why like I think in my list I'll probably add maybe like 1 or 2 Nimbus because I think Nimbus is an okay card to add to the
Yeah,
deck.
yeah. Let's go into the side deck of what we have, and then maybe some
Hmm.
potential cards. So first, let's get out East Kai. I thought this was like a super like meta play, and he showed me his list earlier this week, and then I pretty much messaged him like, "Hey, I'm at the tournament. Wish me luck." He's like, "What?"
Yeah, I was literally at locals and he messaged me and he's like, "I'm at the tournament," and I was like, "Well, I didn't expect this."
Yeah.
So
So
I had no idea he was playing this deck.
and my sideboard wasn't his 100%, but I was like, I don't know what to put instead of these, and so I just ran them verbatim, thinking that they were like for like some anti counterplay stuff, but apparently is what were they for?
They were for announcer because like announcer plays, play by play or play by play pro, Fidel, Mr. Boo,
Hmm.
all these cards that they'll play during your turn to like stop attacks, especially Mr. Boo. That's a really popular one.
Hmm.
So you board 1 or 2 of these, and the second they use like a play by play pro, they might draw a card, but then they got to immediately get rid of 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was just a way to outvalue announcer, and specifically for that deck because like I really don't like playing against that deck because it's so grindy.
Hmm.
Um, and I just wanted to find a way to deal with it because they can't play Crisis Crusher and they can't deal with this card. So once you board it, it's really annoying for them.
Hmm.
And that was the only reason I played it. It also draws a card, so it's okay.
Yeah, and there are some times where you have like flex, and you're like, oh, I wish I had like I could use an extra energy to draw cards, but that's fine. So I'd say probably don't run this unless you're an announcer heavy deck. But moving on, we put in 2 all too easy. Uh,
Yeah, this card I might even put one of them in the main. I think
hmm.
it's probably good enough to put in the main. Because like it's one of those cards that, like you see it, you can negate early with it and you don't feel bad and it just sits there and waits and your opponent forgets about it. They overextend, you use Hirudegarn and then they really push. And then you
Hmm.
just use all too easy and they really regret what they did.
Yeah, 100%. Just the fact like there are some decks uh, like Kaioken or like Gogeta where I'd say are probably the more grindier and harder decks to play against, and this is a good way to have a negate, like a second negate ready for their dual attack, and just being able to play it without having to have it in our hand is fantastic.
Oh yeah, I think that the card is very good, very versatile card.
Yes, since we have the energy to flex for it, yes. Next up, we're running 2 Unexpected Turn. I love this card. It did a lot of work today.
Yeah, this card's actually specifically for 2 matchups. That's Skillis and U6. I
Hmm.
mean, I
Definitely.
do bring it in versus Announcer because like they want to play a bajillion little 1-drops, and I
Hmm.
punish them when they do. But yeah, specifically this card was for 2 other decks.
Hmm.
And honestly, this card, if you see it versus Skillis, it can make the game go from difficult to very easy.
Hmm. 100%. Yeah, it just felt really good. Once I played against a U6, and they just had like 6 cards on field. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to use 1 energy to get rid of all of them. And
Yeah, if you do a swing like that, I don't think you can lose.
yeah, and they just all went to warp too, so they're not even in their drop area, so they're only even sparking for stuff. Like it just felt really good and helpful card. A lot better than I thought. I thought it was like a little bit too swingy, but I think it's secretly one of the better counterplays from this set.
Yeah, it is.
Next up, we've got 2 You're Wide Open. I'm also considering adding this to the main instead of those Hirudegarns, the 7 drops I don't like.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, the cool thing about this deck is there's definitely a lot of flexibility with like cards that you don't like. As long as you don't interfere with like the main engine, you can do a
Yes.
lot of changes to the deck. So like the main engine would be Minutia, the legs,
Yeah, the
promo
whole
7, and then
that whole first part without the non-promo 7, pretty much.
Yep. Basically, as long as that engine stays like at all fours, you're good to kind of flex the deck however you want.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely a good card to main if you prefer having it, and it's just one of those really good. It's preemptive for blue, but instead of the card like going to the drop, it bounces back to their hand, which means you can stack it on top of their deck and stuff.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I wish they got like this was like a 5 cost or less kind of thing, just because like putting it back to the hand feels bad compared
Yeah,
to
it
like
really
being
does.
strictly like Denial of Hope has like a different condition. This is almost worse preemptive strike in a lot of ways. I'd say having the card in their drop area is probably
I
better 9
honestly
times out
think
of
this
10.
should have cost 2, but if the card your opponent was attempting to play was like 3 or less, you like untapped an energy or
Yeah,
something.
something like that. Something like that would be nice, but that's fine. But still, just fantastic. There are a lot of decks where they try to play a card with a really powerful auto, and you're like, nah, and then they're tapped out, and they just pass, and you feel,
Chain attack is what I really want to play that
oh
card
yeah,
for. Like
yeah,
this deck hates Chain Zeno with a passion, so that's kind of why the Frost Poisons are in the main. Like against Chain Zeno decks, I hold those specifically for Chain Zeno.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, Frost and this are good ways to go about that, but it can be really dicey when you reset hand advantage. So. All right, there's that. I ran 2 Mafubas. Did you have Mafubas in your original list? I don't think you did.
My original list, the one I showed you before you seen my second one, there was. I don't play them in the main right now. I
Mm-hmm.
actually don't even think they're in my current sideboard. Let me just double check. I don't
Yeah.
think they are, but I will
Um,
be 100% on that.
yeah, but meanwhile, since we're so flexible with their energy, and a lot of the time, like, it's very common for you to end your it's gonna feel weird. It's a control deck, right? It's not what we're used to, but ending your turn with like 2 or 3 energy up is really common in this deck, and so knowing that your opponent will try to play around, the counterplays and stuff, and then you can just play Mafuba for free, and it's so powerful. Still, I played against like a U6. I played against another U6, and they swung with Champa and Vados, and I Mafuba'd them, and they pretty much conceded on the spot. Like, they were tapped out, and they just couldn't combo anything out of their hand anymore because they're all dead. So that was just a fantastic play, and one of the few ways to actually deal with that card.
Ah, yeah, I did find it. I did in fact have 1 Mafuba mained and 1 Crusher Ball mained in my first set 7 draft.
Okay, nice. So
I
yeah,
definitely decided to just get rid of the Crusher Ball.
yeah. I think we've gotten like the Chomp is better and it's more flexible. So.
Yeah, and you've got Frost Poison, which is also a Crusher Ball. So.
And then lastly, we've got one more Frost Poison. I'm just going to put that aside. We know what that's there.
Yeah.
And then we also have 3 objections. I'd say getting to turn 4 to turn on the the +2 helps a bunch. So it mitigates going -1 for 1 turn because you get an extra turn of going +2.
Yeah, your leader's gonna make up for that immediately anyway. So
Yeah.
it's basically you're neutral for 1 turn is the way I look at it, and then you go back to going plus. But then the objection against some decks, if you lets you board the 9 a turn earlier, and if you do board that 9 a turn earlier, it can spell the game right there on the spot.
Yeah, it just feels really it's a greedy play for sure. And so I think against some decks you're not allowed to do it, but in decks like Gogeta 7 where they're going to be objectioning already, I think it's a really
Yeah,
good
you want to
play.
at least try to get the 9 out. You need the 9 out against Gogeta because that's how you stop that deck is they try to hit you with Gogeta and you just negate with the
Yeah,
Hirudegarn.
and then they're always just afraid to use their wish, right? And then they never do.
Yep, because what happens if they play the Gogeta and they play it into Champa and it's like, well, that's awful.
Yeah, exactly. So that just all feels really good, and yeah. So I think it's a good sideboard deck, but I don't think it deserves a spot in the main.
No, it just depends. Like there are some matchups where you definitely want the objection. There are some matchups where you don't want the objection.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good flex card. Like I said, the sideboard and the main deck have a lot of malleability. You can
Hmm.
change a lot of cards.
But it,
So
oh,
I would definitely at least try the deck, and then depending on like what your local is, find cards that actually just have synergy with what you're trying to do.
yeah, I'd say this is a semi high skill cap deck just because it's really specific on what you're doing, and you really have to know what the range of your opponent is because you're countering it, right? You're anti meta, your control, and so which I find very enjoyable. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people just like going face and winning, which is perfectly fine, by the way. But I think this is for anyone who kind of likes that control itch. I think this is a great deck, and to be honest, without the secret rare, that you can probably get this deck for under $50, right?
Oh, easily. The Hirudegarn nines are currently 8 cents. So
Yeah, those are
I
8 cents.
the
You
most
showed me
expensive
this.
main board card is Bean, I think.
Yeah, if we ran Bean, right?
Yeah, if you ran Bean.
Yeah, because like at the time of this recording, who knows if we're gonna change the stock market as it is? But like you told me, like this deck is great, and I just bought all these for like $1 each. Like they're super cheap. No one wanted them.
No,
Um,
this is if you ask me right now, like what deck I think is the cheapest, most competitive deck in the game, I would say this one, but it's definitely got a very high skill cap uh for like playing the game competitively. You have to be really willing to grind this deck, I think, to do
hmm
really well with it, and you got to be really willing to take losses to mistakes, because that's the biggest thing about playing control.
hmm
A lot of your losses will be because you made a small mistake, like a turn or two prior, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So, if you guys are looking for just high skill, high reward, I think this is a great deck for it. It's a small investment. You don't get the secret rare if you don't have it. You don't need it. And then if you like this deck, totally, I think it's a good purchase. The secret rare would probably be like half the price of the deck.
It'd be more than the deck, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. So, but I think that's fine. And yeah, that's about it. This was a lot of fun to play. Once again, I went 3-1. I played against a Universe 6 Kaba, and I lost to that. I played against a Kel and Khalifa leader Kaba. I won that 2-0. Everything else I won 2-0. Shenron, Let's Kill Krillin, which was a lot of fun. That was a really grindy match, but that was fun. And then a skillless Goku to round it off. So I went 3-1, got third, and just a bunch of goodies, which was nice. So and Mark Hill was there, so shout outs to him.
Yeah, what did Mark Hill think about the deck?
He thought it was really cool. I lost round one, and so I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, what a surprise! The Hirudegarn player isn't doing really well." But then I got third, and like people were like, "Oh shoot!"
That's kind of what happened at my preliminary. I lost my first round against Janemba Mill because I actually never seen a Minotia, and I felt really bad. And then because
That's
of
like impossible.
tiebreakers,
I can't.
yeah, I don't even know how. I literally had all my Minotias were like the last three cards of my deck, and I never shuffle. So
that's absurd.
yeah, it was the worst feeling ever. I'm like, wow, this is the worst feeling.
Yeah. Fun
But
fact:
that was
you can also, what is it? These guys can like mess like Gohan. I'd say his best refining feature is that he can still get rid of like deflect Janemba pieces, which is
Oh
crazy.
yeah, that's the best. That's one of the reasons I added him, because you can pitch every single one of the Janemba cards. Just get rid of them.
Yeah, because it's counterplay. So
Yep. And then they don't get to resolve a single one of them, so they all go away. And that's really important to have, because like this deck doesn't actually have an inherent weakness to Janemba. It's hand destruction, so you're actually good against them.
yeah.
But it's if you don't actually see your cards, like if they don't feed you the Minotia or the Tapion, and you never see them, you'll just lose because you're a control deck with no actual end game.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty hard to do just because like you just have to find them in your drop. But yeah, I'd say
The secret rare is I think the secret rare steals that matchup so heavily. It's absurd, because you can play the secret rare and then awaken, because they're going to be attacking you. You're not producing battle cards, and they need to mill you. So you'll play the secret rare and then awaken, and then you have your Gohan ready to deal with their demon sword that they're going to try to warp your secret rare with.
as long as
And
you have enough cards in deck to draw 8.
yeah, but you can just kill them. Like they can just straight die to triple striker every turn while you're busting their hand. So it's really important that the deck has the capability of just doing that, because that's how I used to beat Mill with Demigra, was I would just produce too many threats and kill them before they ended up doing anything.
So, anyways, we're getting a little off topic. I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun to talk about this deck. Any shout outs before we wrap it up?
Yeah, big shout out to Heroes and Games. It's my locals in Columbus. There's a lot of great players there, and they've really helped me kind of get in touch with the game and really find out what I like playing. And the community there is just great. And shouts to the Dragon Ball Super Group,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously to you. You are a big figurehead in the community right now because I think a lot of the content's getting a little droughted, but we still have you producing at least keeping us up to date with a lot of new stuff.
Thank you. You said that as well as I wrote it, so thank you so much for that. So, yeah, that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this deck. We'll see if these are gonna be $1 next week, and I'll catch you all next time.